Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm Frederick County Executive Jan Gardner, and I'm pleased today to have as my guest our Fire Chief, Tom Owens. Welcome.
Hi, Jan. Good to be here with you.
I'm happy to have you here to give people an update on what's happening in the fire service and in public safety.
Sure.
So, how will what we approved in the budget, the council passed the budget a few weeks ago, help with what's happening in your division?
Well, I will tell you that we're certainly very pleased with the outcome of the budget, with all the competing interests that you have had to manage through all the needs of the county government. So we certainly have no complaints with the support that was provided. Probably the two most significant pieces of the budget architecture for fire rescue this year occurred in an adjustment to the funding matrix that we use for our volunteer fire rescue corporations. The viewers may not know that the county has a formula-based system that we provide a cash stipend to each of our volunteer fire rescue corporations to help them manage their operating expenses. These monies are very much restricted in terms of what they can be used for, but it is to really meet the priority needs so that the mission of fire rescue is accomplished. And our operating costs continue to increase, much like individual citizens. Electric bill goes up and those kinds of things. Our volunteer fire rescue corporations experience those same kinds of increases. So the periodic review and adjustment of our funding matrix is important so that our volunteer corporations can keep pace, and that's an ongoing review. And certainly we'll probably be looking at that again as we go forward in the future. So that adjustment, although it was modest, is important to help our corporations keep pace, and that was accomplished in this year's budget. The second thing is the support to add 12 additional career firefighters to our staff. And the requests for those were actually pretty strategic this year in terms of the intended use of those people. Again, our citizens might not be aware during the recession, there was quite a reduction in the number of full-time county employees. That was a cost-saving measure. And fire rescue actually lost 42 uniformed fire rescue positions. 36 of those were firefighter level positions, and 6 of them were lieutenants. The way we staff our fire stations is we have minimum staffing requirement for each of the stations that we provide career staff support for. But then the way we manage those station level staffing when it comes to their leave use is through additional personnel that are extra on each shift. We refer to them as leave impact staffing. Leave impact positions are where at regular salary and benefit costs we can put someone in the place of a assigned firefighter that is off on their annual leave or sick leave or something of that nature that causes that seat to be vacant on a particular shift. The loss of those positions during the recession really has put us in a position where we don't have adequate leave impact for our firefighters to be able to use the leave that they earn as a county employee. They can't because management has restricted the number of people we allow off on a day as a measure of trying to control the overtime that it takes. And our overtime is very significant expenditure for us already, and controlling leave to the degree that we're able to is the only tool that we really have in order to try to minimize the impact. Solution, though, long-term is to begin to add some of these positions back that we lost during the downturn in the economy. And an internal audit that was done, a special project by our internal audit division, identified that we need 19 full-time positions. With the competing interests in the budget, you were able to support adding 12. Which is certainly a good start to helping to fix that problem. So when it comes to the FY18 budget that was recommended by you, approved by the council, I think those two things are probably the most significant advantages that we see coming that's going to help move the organization forward.
Okay, well that's a lot of information in that answer. I do think it's important that the public understands that we're adding people through the SAFER grants and the recruit classes that grant has supported, and through the regular budget to really take us back to where we had been pre-recession, pre-2008 or so.
Yes.
And so And then that we did really need to add some positions so that people could take their earned time off. That was really something I heard, not just from fire and rescue, but from staff in other divisions, that they really couldn't take vacations. And everybody needs a break.
Yeah.
And or they want to go attend their high school graduation for one of their children,
Right.
or some other kind of legitimate family event that people should be able to take off and attend. So hopefully we'll make progress with that. Now, we do have a lot of recruit classes in progress. We graduated one a few weeks ago, and we'll graduate another very soon. Can you tell us what's happening in regard to the firefighter recruit classes?
Sure. The SAFER grant, as you mentioned, was an opportunity for the county to accelerate restoring our staffing and transitioning many of our fire stations to what's called tactical unit staffing, where we don't sacrifice staffing of one unit in order to respond for another. We actually staff both of the units. So the typical station with an engine and an ambulance, instead of sharing a crew, each of those units would now have a crew. So that was the goal of SAFER. It actually helps eliminating sending a driver out by themselves on a fire engine to an incident, which is ineffective and very dangerous. So SAFER is going to help us move in a more expeditious way in order to do the upstaffing. The grant-funded positions, as well as the 12 firefighters that the county funded in the FY17 budget, coupled with filling all of our current vacancies, are going to bring 68 career firefighters into our system in a 12-month period. And that started with the first recruit class that began last October. They graduated a few weeks ago, as you've indicated. That was recruit class number 20 for the county. Class 21 actually graduates on June the 9th. So they will be enjoying the celebration of their accomplishment, and I'm happy to say the entire 23 recruits that started that class are successful in completing the academy and will all graduate and move into their field assignments. And Class 22 started April 24th. They will graduate in October.
Okay.
The recruit training process is about 5.5 months of a very structured program that gives them all of the required certifications in Maryland to be an operational provider in both firefighting, emergency medical services, hazardous materials response, and firefighter safety and survival training, how we take care of ourselves when we get into a situation that might go sour on us in terms of condition of the building or a firefighter becoming lost, specific techniques that we train in that area that are now part of the state's program. So,
Now, I know you have a specific plan for how you integrate the recruit class graduates into the system and where they're going to be assigned and what station staffing needs are out there that will be met by each class. But how do you actually bring them up to speed with other more experienced firefighters?
It's a structured program. A lot of folks may have the impression that when they graduate from the academy, they're trained and fully operational and just a turnkey firefighter ready to go to work in the station. What the Recruit Academy does is lay that foundation. It gives them all the basic requirements that they need to build upon. But once they're out in the station, they leave the academy with a probationary firefighter's training manual that is a 1-year program that they continue training, but they continue training in the station while on shift and under an assigned mentor. So the veteran firefighter that you mentioned, we take our very best in our veteran firefighters and we pair them with our new recruits. And they really become their mentor through that process of getting them through their station level firefighter probation training, which will occur for the class that graduates on the 9th over the next year. Those mentors are the individuals that really take the foundation of the training that they receive in a very controlled environment at the academy,
Right.
and help them transition how you actually apply the knowledge and skills when you're providing service in the street, as we call it.
Yeah, so it's just not you're out there the next day.
Right.
So now we have some exciting news happening in Middletown. We're going to kick off a groundbreaking, long-awaited,
Yes,
for a
indeed.
new fire station. You want to talk about that?
It is a station that has been needed for many, many years. There have been a number of complications with the site acquisition and design of the building, budgetary issues that have come up from time to time. But over the last 12 months, there has just been tremendous progress in resolving all of the outstanding issues. We now have a very functional and economical design for a fire station that is actually going to be our prototype for other stations that we need to build going forward in the coming years. And in partnership with our volunteers in Middletown, certainly the support of our Public Works Department here, the town officials in Middletown that had to put that project through their own process, we have now reached a point where we have a construction bid that's ready to award. As soon as that comes to your desk, that'll be done. And we are finally going to reach a point where we're going to celebrate this project with a groundbreaking, and that will occur on the 17th of June. So by your invitation, we will have a number of folks attending that event to celebrate what is really a milestone in this project, that we are finally able to put a shovel in the ground and start construction of a fire station that is very much needed for that community.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see that finally coming to reality, and I really not only look forward to breaking ground, but to seeing it completed. So I think that will be a real accomplishment for not just Middletown, but for that whole area of the county, which has a pretty large service area.
It does, and the current stations between Middletown and Myersville, which are our two primary out in the Middletown Valley, they're really filled with the capacity. So we don't have any more room in either of those stations. So the new station, which is larger than the current Middletown station, is going to give us the ability to house additional units as they are needed coming forward.
So we're almost to the end, but one more point I want to have you make is we did do a new public service announcement, and I know this is something you feel strongly about, as well as others in public safety, about move over and slow down when you see an emergency along a roadway. I really want you to speak to that.
A tremendous problem that any emergency responder, highway worker, our law enforcement partners, anybody that's out there on the roadway now is beginning to experience real tragedy associated with distracted drivers. And particularly on the interstate highways, we have had a serious accident where a motorist failed to move from the travel lane while our units were handling a sick person on the shoulder of Interstate 70. And they struck our engine that's assigned at the Spring Ridge station, slightly injured one of our firefighters. The driver of that vehicle was seriously injured, had to be transported. And really the law in Maryland provides that when there is an emergency vehicle operating on the shoulder of the road, the motorists are asked and required by law to change lanes if they can do so safely. If they cannot change lanes because of traffic, they then need to slow down below the posted speed limit. More importantly is our motorists need to understand when they're behind the wheel, their number one job is to pay full time and attention to operating that vehicle.
Right.
And that's where we feel we have our biggest problem with phones and all kinds of technology in the vehicles today. People's attention are being taken away from properly managing that vehicle in a safe manner, and the unfortunate reality when people are on the highway doing their job, they can become a victim. And no better example than our state police, who have had a number of very, very serious accidents around the state of Maryland in the past year.
Well, I appreciate you reminding people of that, and I really do want to thank you for joining me today, and I appreciate all the good work that you do in leading our fire service. It's really an important service that people expect. We certainly hope we don't have to call 911, but when we do, we want to make sure that people show up who are well-trained and capable of meeting whatever that emergency need. So my last comment to our viewing audience is to really please pay attention when you're driving. Distracted driving is becoming a huge issue. We do want to keep all of our highway workers and all of our public safety responders safe in our highways when they are there to help somebody else. So please make sure that you aren't distracted with your phone, or certainly not texting and driving. So make sure that you keep our public safety first responders safe when you're driving. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you learned a little bit more about what's happening in the fire service in Frederick County.